Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another podcast. It is great to have you back. I want to thank all the listeners on X. We are breaking records over there. I appreciate it. 20, 30, 40,000 listeners for every podcast. Insane. Also, I want to thank all the YouTube watchers. We did 3,000 views like what 40 hours ago on a video that came out. Guys, really appreciate it. I was shocked and surprised. We are in 21 countries on X on our podcast, and I want to thank all of you for all the support you always give me. Keep on throwing the comments. I comment to almost everybody. I got accused again on both sides. I was a Democrat. I was a Republican yesterday. That's good news. That means I'm doing my job if I'm coming down the middle. Today, we're going to go over some national polls, some state polls. We're going to go on and just touch on this early voting. How do we do that? I like to compare, and everybody should, because everyone's throwing a million numbers out. We're breaking records here. We got early voters. This is fantastic news for Republicans. This is fantastic news for Dems. I'm going to give you a couple states. We're not going to be able to break it down because we can't compare it to 2020. 2020 was COVID. 2020 was COVID. Everybody got mailed a ballot. I mean, everybody was pretty much early voting. If you wanted to, you could go in person, of course. And the Republicans always go more in person because it was the old theory of, hey, do I trust the ballot situation? And the Democrats always vote early and mail-in votes. We're going to touch upon that on the state. I'm going to show you a couple graphs that I have also. I do want to talk about the noise of the campaign. What's happening right now? And the noise level keeps rising. And what I mean by the noise is you're going to continually hear breaking news on Trump, breaking news on Harris. He did this, she did that. The news organizations have these stacked, have the stories ready. The enemies also on the opposite sides have these stories ready, feeding the news, no matter what news station you're listening to. Let the noise brush over you. You're a voter. Don't let the noise bother you. It's pure political noise, comes out every single time. This one did that, that one did that, this one did that, that one did that. The most important thing to look at is where is the campaign concentrating on? And you can see what's happening. Harris is working hard on trying to get out the vote. Harris is now going down to Texas. It's the old theory of, hey, copying Trump's playbook slightly. Trump went out to California and Colorado. Do we think Trump's going to win Colorado and California? No. Why would he ever go out there? For noise. For noise. If he didn't go out there, you wouldn't have known he got. How did you know he went out there? It brings press. If he's doing another campaign in Pennsylvania, what is there to talk about? So you go out there, you get your talking points out. Harris goes down to Texas. What is her number one talking point going to be? It's about abortion. They've already let it be known. Does she think she can win Texas? It's one of these theories, right? Beto O'Rourke made Democrats wonder, is it possible to win Texas? She's not winning Texas. But just like Florida, there's always these theories. The article came out, MSNBC, was it last night? Is Florida in play? I mean, that's dream world. That's dream world. Okay. That's like, is California in play for Trump? It's not. It's not. Some states you got to give up, and that's where it is. And you got to go. Now, the interesting thing with the campaign is, do you go with your strengths? Do you go with your weaknesses? Do you stick to the 7 battlegrounds, or do you try to open up the map a little bit? So today we're going to go over the Trump versus Harris, some state polls, very light today. And we're going to touch upon some early voting. Let's get started. Okay, guys? So I've got a few graphs for you too, which may be surprising, but let's get going on the national first. TIPP came out Trump versus Harris. It was Harris +4. It is now a tie. So just remember something. While the Republican polls are stronger this year, there's been movement. There's been movement. Both sides have to admit this. Trump has had an advantage and some movement here. This poll by TIPP, with Harris losing 4 points from last month as we're getting now deeper into October, is a sign of a traditional poll that has movement. Now, Reuters came out, had Harris at 3 and still has Harris at 3. Okay, so solidified at 3 points. Do we believe that Harris can win popular vote by 3? Absolutely. Absolutely. A good poll. Morning Consult had Harris +4 before, has Harris +4 again. So we've got 3 polls, 2 are exactly the same as last month, and 1 has some movement towards Trump. It's kind of what we've been seeing, right? It's not every poll. It's not every poll. So, half stay the same, half teeter towards Trump. Let's do some state polls. Georgia, we have a Atlanta Journal-Constitution poll. Had Trump +3, now has Trump +4. A movement for Trump by 1 point. I'll finish my point in a second. I'll get right to it. Michigan, Trump +2 before for a Trafalgar poll. Republican is still Trump +2. That stayed the same. If you're the Harris campaign, you got to put a stop to this movement. She has to freeze the moment first, meaning as these polls are starting to head Trump's way, she has to bring it to an end, like Trump did post-debate. It went, what were we? Trump was down by 1, and it ballooned to Trump 1.5 to 2 to 2.5 to 3 to 3.5. Everybody in that campaign, I'm sure, sat there and said, is this ever going to stop? Are we going to get blown out? It capped at Trump at Harris +4. You have to stop it first before you can possibly reverse it. So remember, these polls are a little older, so we're still bringing up data from, a week ago. Has Harris stopped it, or is this going to continue? Super important to watch. I do have a Senate poll in Michigan, which is Rogers versus Slocum. Trafalgar had it as a tie. It now goes back to the Dem, Slocum by 1. Okay, that's a Democrat seat with a Democrat leading by 1 there, and that's a movement towards a Democrat. Okay, so is that a crack? Is that a movement? We will see. I'm going to share my screen. Oh, you know what? I'm going to read you an interesting tweet. All right, so this is from Natasha Korecki, okay? So she is NBC News senior national political reporter, okay? She was with the White House with Politico and on, okay? Now, is this from the Harris campaign saying, let's create some panic? Let's make sure we get out and vote, or is this real? I asked Natasha to come on the show, did not get a response. Okay, let me read you her tweet. New in bold. Harris campaign is privately flagging potential cracks in the blue wall. Discussions of an anomaly with the blue wall and not all the states falling in the same direction. Okay, exactly what I was saying, that it's been a very unique map. What happens in Wisconsin or Michigan does not matter what happened in Pennsylvania, which does not matter with Georgia, does not matter in Arizona. Territorially, it has changed. Okay, let's continue. Discussions of an anomaly with blue wall and not all states falling in the same directions hasn't happened since 1988. Concerns are centered on Michigan. 3 sources tell us. The campaign, though, is pushing back and says they're going to win Michigan. Next point. Warning signs in North Carolina. In quotes, of all of the 7 states, that one seems to be a little bit slipping away. A Harris campaign official said of North Carolina. Is this gamemanship? Is this, hey, let's get out the vote? Or is this true? I read that to you because, it's slightly unusual to have a big time reporter to put out something like this. So, um, like NBC or not like NBC or however you feel, that's just something that I just want to throw at you because it does go with if the internals, the Democratic polls are showing what we have been showing, a Trump movement, well, then that would be a concern. And yes, as we said on the show, Michigan is the weak spot. Michigan is the weak spot. If Trump holds Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina. Let me I'm going to show you some interesting let me just share my screen real quick. I know this is small for some of you. So I'll read it to you. I got a few battleground states here and just wanted to compare Republican to Democrat. Like if you think about Arizona, do you think there's more Dems or Republicans? So I'll just read you the percentages. It'll make it super easy for you. Arizona, Republicans have 33%. Democrats have about 30.5. Independents are 36.5. So independents rule Arizona. Isn't that fascinating? So again, 33 to basically 31 to 37 for independents. Okay, so Republicans leading by a very light margin, about 100,000 votes there. Nevada has more Republicans. You wonder why that's a thorn in their side. At 34.5%, Democrats are sitting at 31.2%. Independents are 34.3. It's basically a three-way split in Nevada. That's why Nevada is so tight. Okay. North Carolina. Let's just take a guess. Who has more voters? Well, of course, it's Republicans, right? Wrong. Independents lead the pack at 35%. Democrats are next at 34%. And Republicans are 31%. Isn't that unbelievable? I mean, that's incredible to think about that there's more Democrats in North Carolina. Wisconsin, 35.5% independents, 33% Democrats, and about 32% for Republicans. So about split there. There's 40,000 more Democrats. And by the way, that's probably what could be the difference. But look at the independent vote leading the way in Wisconsin. Michigan, you got 300 and change thousand more Democrats. Okay. But independents are at 38%. 38% of Michigan voters are independent, 33% Dems, 29 Republicans. 38 to 33 to 29 for Republicans. That's why Michigan is so difficult to win for a Republican. Pennsylvania, Republicans, you got to give it to them, and this is a discussion for later. Republicans have made a move we're talking about Democrats used to have 1 million more voters, and now it is down to a couple 100,000, 300,000. Here's who leads the pack in Pennsylvania. 34% Democrats, 34% independents, and 32% Republicans. Okay, it's about a 300,000 person difference, Democrats to Republicans. And again, huge numbers for independents. And doesn't this get us on the theory that, yeah, we're so divided, right? But it's not half and half, guys. It's not. It's a third, and then there's a third that's not divided. Yes, divided on which way they vote, but they're not listening to MSNBC, CNN, and Fox. They don't need to. They're thinkers. They're aware. They're not predetermined. These are the voters that this channel is about. These are the voters that are going to matter. These are the voters that need to get out and vote. They're not skewed by what they're listening to. You only know what you listen to. If you listen to CNN, that is the only thing you know. But the independents want the news. Fox, same thing. I love this. Does this show everything right here? Let's go to, I want to show you really quick on while we're on that stage. Let's go to Nevada. John Ralston, who many of you probably have heard, is Mr. Nevada, does know, has no noise, only talks the facts, love him, hate him, whatever. Here's his tweet from this morning. New SOS update shows that Republicans have taken the lead statewide in Nevada by 8,000 votes or 3% on early voting. He talks about the firewall, the Clark firewall. Clark is the number one county in Nevada. Clark was only 4,000 votes, not nearly enough, meaning Clark County is 4,000 ahead. The Dems always say, hey, if we can stretch that lead to a massive number, then no matter what happens in the rural areas, they can't catch us. So he's saying the Clark firewall is only 4,000 votes, not nearly enough to head off rural losses. I'll update the blog soon. Ralston did update. And let me see if I'll see if I can pull that up and get you that data right now. So Ralston did, okay, so some more Clark came out and cut into the GOP lead. The GOP has a lead of 6,000 statewide. I mean, Republicans are leading in Nevada on early voting. Okay, so let's talk about early voting. We'll get Ralston off here for a second. So, let me get some data I have. You want to see something shocking? I know it's tough to compare. This is how it generally works. 60 to 65% of early voting is Democrats around the country. This is not in particular to a state. Again, 30 to 35%, we'll just call it Republican. We know those numbers don't add up completely because there's independents and everything else. But 60 to 65% of Democrats vote early. The early vote in Pennsylvania, there's been about 1 million votes. Great job, everybody, getting out and vote. The Democrats have 649,000 out of the million. 649,000 votes early. 649,000. Republicans, 300,000. Independents, 102,000. Now, if we go back to that screen that we just had in Pennsylvania, it was pretty much even. Pretty much even across the board. So the lead is about 349,000 for the Democrats, if you want to call it that. We don't know how they voted, of course. No one's here to say that. But here's something fascinating. 649,000 Democrats voted. Do you know in 2020 what the number was of how many Democrats came out early? 64.7%. 64.7% of Democrats in Pennsylvania came out early in 2020. 649,000 out of 1 million, which is 64.9% of Dems. Guys, they are right on the number of what they did last time. Now, you say to yourself, that could go a lot of different ways. The Republican number is up higher. Republicans before did 23.7% in 20 and are now at 300,000. They are doing 30% of the million so far. Of course, this changes daily. So Republicans are voted higher in earlier voting by 7%. The Dems have stayed the same. And you say, all right, so, hey, if you're Republican, we're coming out. Looks good. You guys are staying the same. We're going to catch you. Democrats could say, and this is why it's so difficult, we're at the same number and we have no fear of going to the polls in person this time because of COVID. So we're going to have a bigger day of voting than we did before. So if we're carrying the same exact numbers in 20 when we were in COVID, which was a huge number, and we're going to increase our numbers day of voting on election day, We're going to easily win again. How do we possibly know what's happening? We don't. Now, Ralston's on the ground. He sees an issue in Nevada. Does not surprise me at all. I am surprised and shocked. If Harris loses, it's because she abandoned Arizona and Nevada. This is a state that has, I've said it every podcast. This was two Republican senators and a Republican governor not long ago. This was a Republican red state. Not purple, not pink, whatever you want to call it. Not blue, red. She abandoned Arizona by picking walls. Abandoned her number one weak spot. Did they just say, hey, we're going to give it up? It's a border issue. We're going to give it up. Arizona is used to voting Democrat. They booted out a Republican governor and put in a Democratic governor. They booted out a senator from McCain's seat and put in a Democratic senator. They booted out another Republican senator and put in another Democratic senator. You're just going to leave it hanging? I have a feeling that they said behind the four walls of the campaign staff, we got a wall issue. We got a immigration issue. Let's let it go. Let's let it go. And they probably said, well, we'll get somebody from Pennsylvania, Michigan, or Wisconsin. And then what happens? Right? We got the Israeli, Palestine issue. Passes on the governor, Shapiro, in Pennsylvania. Big mistake. Big mistake. If she loses, look at that. So I'm going to give you another Georgia. There's not a lot of information here, but there's been 1.5 million voters because everyone hears about Georgia. There's been 1.5 million voters. Here's something interesting. 55% of the early voters have been women. 45% are men. They do not break out Republican and Democrat in Georgia for you. So they only give you like demographics. Black, white, women, men. It's 55 to 45 women. So that's good news for Dems. 55% of which we know lean Democrat towards Harris. They're getting out the women vote, and it's 55%. Is there good news for Republicans here? I'm not sure. But good news there for Democrats in Georgia getting out the vote. What happens? The polls, what's our lead in Georgia right now? Georgia lead shows for Trump for 2.5%. So I'm going to also just show you really quick, as I promised you to be out of here quick, and of course it's not. I'm going to pop on. This is interesting. Pennsylvania, which we just got done talking about. Just to show you this chart, 538 shows it a tie. These are the polling averages. The Hill shows it Harris up by 0.4. Nate Silver has it by 0.4. Race to the Whitehouse.com has Harris 1.6. Real Clear has Trump by 0.7. Split Ticket shows Harris by 0.9. So remember, when I always talk about Real Clear and 538, you can see this is 0.7 for Real Clear for Trump and a tie for 538. There are others. There's 1 million of these. And I want to just show you, in case if you ever wondered, some other polling places. Now, listen, Split Ticket, Nate, I trust Nate, but the Hill, okay, that's fine. But this is showing a Harris, when you add all these up, Harris is 0.4% up. Okay. I'm also going to show you this little chart, which is on this day in 2016, with basically, 13 days to go, Hillary was up by 6.2% in the polls. This shows you how badly and off the polls were in 16 and in 20. And at this time in 2020, Biden was up by 4.9%. So Hillary up by 6.2 on this exact date in 16 with 13 days to go. Biden up by 4.9. They were much tighter. 16, Trump won. The polls were off by 6%. This is the catch-up game that the pollsters are on. It's the Republican voter, the Trump voter. How do we find them? So what they do in 22 on the Senate and some of the governor races, they move it all the way over. It's going to be a red wave, red wave, red wave. Nope. It's a pretty even Steven election. They were wrong because they swung it too far. The pollsters are all over the place. They're all over the place. Let's go to just want to show you. We'll go through Arizona then. Same thing. Okay, Arizona is showing about a Trump 1.8 lead. On this day in 2016, Hillary was up by 1.5 and lost. Biden was up by 3.2 and barely won. They were off by about 3 percentage points. You want to call it 2.5 to 3? That's where we are. Are they off again, or did it go too far? Interesting. I'm going to get you this chart, which is the president averages countrywide. These are percentages. Don't get this confused with poll numbers. These are percentages. Okay. 538 has Trump now 51-49. The probability of winning 51. These are not pollsters. This is purely percentages. Chance to win. The Hill 52-48 for Trump. JHK forecast 52-47. Trump in the lead. Race to the White House has Harris ahead, 51.5 to about 48.5. Split ticket has Harris 53-47. The average on that is 50-50. Is 50-50. So let me run you through the averages real quick. I just ran you through those averages on percentages. I'll take you through the states. All up. Trump is all up in all of them on Real Clear. Pennsylvania by 0.8, North Carolina by 0.5, Georgia by 2.5, Arizona 1.8, Wisconsin 0.4, Michigan 1.2, Nevada 0.7. Real Clear has it Harris by 0.8 nationally. Guys, that updates you on the race, the states. We did have a little Senate race and a little bit of I wanted to show you some of the early voting. Okay. So tomorrow, hopefully get juiced up with some polls. I'll be back with you and we'll discuss those and any other topics like, hey, can Trump win the popular vote? That may be our discussion for tomorrow. If this roll continues, we'll catch up. Guys, I love you. Thanks for listening. Appreciate all the likes and the comments. Keep them coming. We'll take care, guys.